Good morning. I hope you are safe and well. I have some good news for you this morning. We're opening church again just for private prayers starting on this Wednesday at 10 till 11 a.m. and next Sunday between 9:30 and 11 a.m. There won't be a service as such, but you will be free to come and go as you please during those times for your own private prayers. And I'm sure you'll agree it's a step in the right direction. Over the past few weeks, there's been a desperate campaign to try recruit people to harvest fruit and vegetables grown here in the UK. Apparently around 70,000 people are required for this task each year. Normally the task is mostly undertaken by migrant workers. But this year, firstly with Brexit and then the coronavirus, the farming industry is still short of about 40,000 people to gather in this year's harvest. Even Prince Charles has got involved with a campaign to recruit more people, Picking for Britain. But let's be honest, this is back-breaking work, and people are mostly paid the minimum wage. So it's not really surprising that the industry is struggling to recruit. Obviously, jobs like these require little or no qualifications, but those jobs fall into that category of key workers, the people who we have been so very grateful for keeping this country going over the past few months. So why don't we value those key workers more? Why don't we take more notice of them? Why don't we pay them the right wage? Key workers are essential for meeting the needs of everyone, and Jesus himself recognised their value and importance even 2,000 years ago. So let's listen to what he said about them.
Jesus went around visiting all the towns and villages. He taught in the synagogues, preached the good news about the kingdom, and healed people with every kind of disease and sickness. As he saw the crowds, his heart was filled with pity for them, because they were worried and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. So he said to his disciples, "The harvest is large, but there are few workers to gather it in. Pray to the owner of the harvest that he will send out workers to gather in his harvest." Jesus called his 12 disciples together and gave them authority to drive out evil spirits and to heal every disease and every sickness.
In that reading, Jesus recognises that a harvest is large but the workers are few. So in that last verse and in the next verses of chapter 10, Jesus commissions the 12 disciples and sends them out to do God's work amongst the people. These are key workers for God's kingdom, going out telling people the good news, healing the sick, driving out demons and praying for them, bringing God's peace and love to those who are in need. But there's one thing that stands out for me in this passage. If Jesus wanted to send people out to heal people with every kind of disease and sickness, why didn't he choose then a group of qualified doctors? It makes sense. If you want someone to do a job and to do it well, you pick those who are most qualified. Yet as far as we know, none of the 12 disciples were doctors. Instead, they were a ragtag bunch of misfits with little or no qualifications for the task given to them. Fishermen, a tax collector, a zealot, a group of men completely unqualified for the task ahead. None of these men had a medical background. None of them had any experience of being teachers or preachers. None of these men were wealthy. None of them were powerful or had any influence in society. They didn't even have any great spiritual insight. But nevertheless, these are Jesus' chosen key workers, sent out to do God's essential work in the community and the world around them. So why did Jesus choose this inexperienced bunch of unqualified men to be his disciples? Well, perhaps it was because they were ordinary, down-to-earth people who were representative of the very communities that they were sent out to serve. The disciples knew what life was like for those who were going to serve ordinary, vulnerable folk. But the essential qualifications the disciples possessed was faith that they had in the God who called them. That's who Jesus chooses as his key workers. Ordinary people, people with faith, people who are representative of their community, people just like you and me. God does not choose the qualified. He qualifies those who he has chosen. So may God give us the faith to recognise his call. May Jesus give us the example to be his key workers. And may the Spirit give us the vision to identify the harvest and to the strength to gather it in. Amen.